Alrighty guys, welcome back. I'm not really gonna kind of classify this as a particular part to the episode that we were on. This is more of like a little memo or sort of a preference from my mom, and she's gonna kind of take the ropes with this one. And she just wanted to kind of just briefly sort of just talk about the field, some of the education. 'Cause the thing about it is that if you were picking up on her terminology along the way, she was talking almost in the sense of enticing, right? Of trying to bring people into the field and maybe expose somebody that might want to do this later on. So what she wants to do now is sort of just give you some more information or give you a little more guidance in terms of the steps that you could take if that's something that you might want to do in the future. Yeah, Mom, take it over and run with that.
Okay, so again, it is now called Clinical Laboratory Sciences, which is a more descriptive title. And I just quickly wrote down a couple of things. How do you know whether or not it's a good fit for you? If you're a good writer and you're well-spoken, that's important. You have good communication skills. That goes for almost everything now. That's not unique to the laboratory sciences, but you do have to interact with physicians, patients, nurses, and communicate things to them, educate them on, their misunderstandings, because all of those other professions only focus a very short period of time on the laboratory sciences. So they know what we do and what we provide for them as a service, but they don't always necessarily understand what those results mean. So, we're trained specifically on what the results are. College work includes biochemistry, organic chemistry, chemistry, pathology, immunology, hematology, serology, microbiology. There are just so many facets to the career. So ultimately, you need to like science and math. There's no getting around it. If you're interested in science and you can tolerate math, I can't say that like I was a math whiz. I didn't really care for it all that much, but I do use math every single day. I use statistics every single day. Probably one of the few people in my circle of friends that can actually say things that I learned in college I use every single day. It wasn't just extraneous things that I learned. I think that if you enjoy problem solving and doing puzzles, that's important. Microbiology in particular is very, very much a puzzle. Every single day, you're looking at cultures of bacteria that are growing, and you have to try to determine if that bacteria is, number one, a pathogen, and then you have to identify it and find out what antibiotics will actually kill it in the patient to make the patient better. So in my experience with microbiology, I specialized in microbiology for 12 years. That was the closest working relationship I ever had with physicians. And it was mostly the infectious disease physicians. It was a very close relationship. We communicated a lot with one another. It was interesting because I got the whole picture of the patient, whereas now I really miss out on the big picture of patients. I'm focusing on just one small aspect of them. But problem solving and enjoying puzzles, it's a mental exercise every single day, which is exciting. Even though you're doing pretty much the same work every single day, it's different patients, it's different tests, it's different procedures. So there is a lot of variability in what you're doing, and you can be on the hematology bench today, you'll be in blood bank tomorrow. So even though you're going to the same building in the same area, you're in different parts of it. So there's variety, even though it's the same profession, which I think is pretty cool. It's a selling point. You have to have a desire to help people, obviously, because you're not just running tests and putting out results. Like I touched on with Colin earlier, that, for me personally, every single specimen I handle, I treat it as if it came from someone I love dearly, even though I don't know who that patient is. What I'm doing is important to their well-being and will help them in the future and their doctor to help make them feel better. So you're an integral part of actually the healing process. Oftentimes, laboratory scientists are called the doctor's doctor. So we explain and help them. A lot of times, they're not exactly certain what could be wrong with the patient. And, we can give them hints or clues that like, oh, well, I noticed there's a lot of blood in the urine, but, there's no white blood cells. So, it could be a kidney infection that is, a long time been a kidney infection. It's a chronic infection. So, things like that where, you're actually making decisions that are helping a patient in the long run. So ultimately you have to consider the fact that, there's a human being attached to everything that you do. That's important to have that. You need to be self-motivated, and obviously you have to work well under pressure. You need to be organized and pretty meticulous. So these are some, key traits in a person that would make, a good fit for the career. I can't say enough for the career. I've been doing it since 1990 and I still love it. There are days that I come home and I'll complain about the day, or, it was just a particularly busy or bad day, short-staffed or whatever. But you know what? Every single day I get up and not once have I been like, oh God, I gotta go to work today. I always look at it as, like a challenge. I feel personally challenged every single day that I go to work. And I think that's a rare thing for people today, to feel challenged and elevated because, what you're doing is important. If you're going into a career to get recognition, it's not the career for you because you're not going to get any recognition. But you would become a very vital part of the healthcare system. And without the laboratory, there really is no healthcare. It's just guessing. So I just quickly looked up a couple of the schools that are in South Florida in case anybody's interested or has a child who has an affinity for sciences and math. And, as a parent, you want your kids to go into something that they're actually going to be successful in, and your investment in their college education is going to pay off. And this is definitely a career where your investment is going to pay off. So I found that the University of Central Florida in Orlando has an accredited program, and University of West Florida in Pensacola does, University of South Florida, Gulf Coast University, St. Leo University, and Jacksonville University. Not to disparage Kaiser University, but they're not an accredited university and their program does not have any clinical experience whatsoever. Save your money. They're extremely expensive and it's not a good investment in your money. You're not going to get any return on it. In fact, we have some graduates that come to us that actually have a degree in medical laboratory science and they can't function even as a lab assistant. So it's really important, if you're going to pick a program, to make sure it's an accredited program that has a real clinical component to it. So you'll spend 6 months or a year in a real hospital setting, clinical setting, getting your skills and learning how to deal with the stress and the hustle and bustle of the environment. Without that, you're really not getting a well-rounded education. I would certainly recommend any university that's accredited. Hospital work is not the only avenue for this degree. You can work in cosmetic industries, testing for microbiology, bacterial contamination, food, water quality. You can do lots of different things with the career. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a hospital setting. Infection prevention is a big thing right now, and it's also a very good springboard for, like a lot of people leave clinical laboratory science and go on to be physician's assistants. That seems to be like, it's a stepping stone. So it's a good viable stepping stone because you'll make decent money and you can continue on to something else. So I don't know if I sold anybody on the career, but I love it, and we need people to enter the career and get the word out that it's a significant career, it's a rewarding career. And like I said, nationwide, the demand for medical laboratory personnel is up 22%, and that was just last year. I expect it to go up even more than that. So, there are very few careers that you can choose to come out of college, actually have multiple offers on your plate before you even graduate. You can go anywhere in the world. You can definitely go anywhere in the country. You can work part-time, you can work full-time, you can work third shift and stay home with your kids during the day. I did that for 12 years, which was great because I never missed a sporting event. I went to all of the school functions. The only bad part of that was the summertime because this guy, Mom, all you do is sleep. Because I was at work all night while he was sleeping. So to him, I was home all the time, but I had to sleep sometimes. So that was the only down point. But there's a lot of job sharing that goes on, especially as younger women have families. You can job share. There are sign-on bonuses and tuition remission and lots of programs because it's such a high demand career that, industries are trying to make it more enticing for people to come, and you'll have multiple offers. Very few people get multiple offers, can actually sit down and choose where they want to go. Most graduates from college, especially if you're talking just a science degree, are lucky if they can get anything that is remotely what they want.
You're gonna see a couple boxes in a little circle. So over here, this is gonna be a playlist with a whole bunch of other videos that I posted. If you like what you saw so far from the sit down, you'll be able to keep up with everything right there. Right here is going to be the video to my previous video, and then right here, click that circle there. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell icon to make sure you get all the updates whenever I come out with some new content. I appreciate the support. Let's keep the train going. Here we go.